In this episode of Talking About Orcs, we're going over the mainstay of the Orc army, the Boyz. So, Orc Boyz are basically the same exact stats as they've always been, except they do have that +1 strength now. So they are essentially furiously charged all the time from the old Furious Charge rules. So they always have that +1 strength, which is very nice. Not just on the turn they charge, but every turn they have strength 4, which is a big improvement. Very big improvement. The 10 Boyz, so the same price as they've been forever. 6 points per model, minimum of 10, maximum of 30. You can choose between shooters and sluggers and mix them in the unit with no points change. So you can have 30 with shooters, 30 with sluggers and choppers if you want, or any combination thereof, which is very nice. Again, shooters and sluggers really haven't changed much. Assault 2 on the shooters, which means they can move, advance, still shoot with their shooters, and if you have a war boss nearby, they can charge. So that gives you a lot. I mean, they are still hitting on 6s, of course, instead of 5s when they do that, but you might be able to ping off a model or 2 from a side unit or something you're not charging. I think same also goes with their heavy weapons too, the rockets and the big shooters, which are also both assault, so they can still run and shoot those weapons as well. So that gives you a lot of flexibility with those weapons, with the assault weapons, either shooters or rockets or big shooters. Again, they're all assault weapons, so they can all benefit from running and shooting, or advancing and shooting. Let's see, you can also take a knob, of course. The knob does not cost any extra points, so you're basically getting that extra attack and extra wound for free, which is very nice. And you can, of course, give him a slugger or a big chopper or a power claw. You cannot give him a kill saw, unfortunately. And you can also give him a combi weapon. See from the shooty weapons list. Yeah, so you can give him a combi scorcher if you wanted to as well. So of course that gets really pricey. Well, as the power claw went down, the combi scorcher did not. So the combi scorchers are still very expensive, but the fact is you can get a full unit of 60 Boyz with a power claw knob for under 200 points now. And that's without any weapon upgrades. I guess you could do weapon upgrades if you wanted to on top of that, but most of the time if you're running just slugger choppers, there's no reason to add any weapons to that. So you're probably just going to stick with, yeah, it'd be 18 points for the big shooters, rockets. Ooh, 36. So yeah, rockets are twice as much as big shooters. The double weapons, so the twin big shooter and the rack of rockets went down in chapter approved. The regular big shooter and rocket launcher did not, unfortunately. They should have, though. So that gives you your weapon options. So I really do like either just taking 29 slugger choppers with a knob, or 30 shooters, give them 3 weapon upgrades. Either rockets or big shooters, depending on what you want them to do. And I do like to keep my units all the same. It just gives them a more focused role, as opposed to mixing them up, which you're not quite sure what you're getting out of them. So the big thing is with Choppa, you get an extra attack, so it's basically the old same. So Boyz, which slug and choppers have 3 base attacks, just like they always had. Shooters, they have 2 base attacks. So there's essentially been no changes to Boyz whatsoever, with the exception, sadly, of not being able to take heavy armor. That is not an option. There is no Boyz with heavy armor in this index, which makes me cry. Because there's nothing the Orc Boyz could use more than heavy armor in this edition. I don't want to spend too much time lamenting on this, but the difference it would make in all my games being able to take heavy armor is crazy, because there's a lot of -1 and -2 weapons out there. So if you have just heavy armor and a pain boy against a -2, you still get your 6-up, 6-up. And there's so many things that are high volume but no AP, where you take the 4-up and a pain boy 6-up would really make a huge difference, and there's nothing I want more in the Codex when it comes out than Boyz with heavy armor, or some sort of unit with Boyz with heavy armor. Back in the old 3rd edition Codex, it was actually a separate unit, I think. Ard Boyz? I thought it was some book that had a separate entry for Ard Boyz. I could be wrong. Yeah, I think they were elites in the 3rd edition book. I don't have it handy. But anyway, notwithstanding, Boyz need their heavy armor back. In 7th edition, I always took heavy armor. Every single time I took a Boyz unit, it was worth every single point, every single time. Against scatter laser spam, the heavy armor was huge. I remember playing so many Eldar armies with scatter bike spam, and they were just bouncing off the Boyz, and the Boyz were just running across the field, and there's nothing the scatter lasers could do about it. But anyway, I digress. So let's talking about 8th edition Boyz. The other, let's see, so they have, here we go, mob rule, so they can always reroll their charges. Mob rule, which is huge for Boyz, especially when you got 30 units of 30. Being able to spread around that leadership 30 is incredible. Green Tide. Oh, I can't imagine. That's right, it does go towards character. So say if you've got Mind War or some other thing that goes based on a character's leadership, that character has leadership 30 with mob rule. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyway, I hadn't thought about that. Green Tide. If this unit includes 20 more models, add 1 to the attack characteristics of each model in the unit. You know what? I forget that more often than not. When I jump a unit of shooter boys and charge them in, I forget they have more attacks. If they have more than 20 models. I have forgotten that more than once. So, and that's a great ability. So now with Slugger Choppas, if you've got a full unit, now you're talking 4 attacks per model. And you can boost that even beyond that. I know I've talked about this before, but if they have Gazgul nearby and they charge in, now they have 5 attacks each. And if you use the Weird Boys Warpath power, now you're talking 6 attacks per Ork boy on the charge. You need boost it again with the War Banner, so now they're hitting on 2s. That's insane. If you're going up against a large unit where you can actually get a lot of attacks, we're talking hundreds of attacks. Is hitting on 2s and strength 4. That is absolutely insane amount of attacks. I mean, that is the way Orcs should be, just rolling tons of dice. Here, make 30 or 40 2-up saves on your Terminators. Good luck on that. And so the Boyz are still the core. The downside is they are extremely fragile. Cover doesn't help anymore. Cover is so useless in 8th edition, which was one of the most important things that kept the Boyz alive before. No heavy armor, no cover. All they can get is a KFF and a Pain Boy, which isn't great, but way better than nothing at all. That's for sure. Way better. So that's what it comes down to. They are the core of your army. They are going to smash stuff in the face. They are buffable. They give you a lot of utility depending on what war gear options you take. They can be shooty, they can be choppy, but they're fragile, and you need to spend the points to help keep them alive. Otherwise, you're just going to be taking them off the table faster than they can do anything in this edition. And personally, I would never, if you're going to run Boyz, plan on at least 90. 120 might be better. And if you really want to go out, go with the battalion attachment runs, or 3. I guess you could run battalion. Get some cheap elites and stuff in there. And run 6 full units of 30. And just start every turn. That gives you 6 turns jumping a unit across the board. And I really hope that when the Codex does come out and we get clan traits, they do help the Boyz somehow even more. Well, that's really all there is to talk about Ork Boyz. They're just Ork Boyz. Same thing they've always ever been. They're great. They are absolutely fantastic for the points, if you can get them across the table long enough, or survive enough to get across the table. And points investments in Pain Boys and KFS will greatly aid in their ability to get across the board. So any questions about Ork Boys, let me know. And thanks for watching. Thank you for watching this episode of Talking About Orks. Please subscribe and hit the bell button for notifications for new Talking About Orks videos every Wednesday, new battle reports every Friday, and hobby videos whenever I can. Thanks for watching.